Hello, hello, hello.
Hi.
Hey, welcome to episode 3 of Small Scale Chatter, our miniatures community video and podcast. We are live on Facebook and YouTube right now, this very second, and we are talking to Paul from Pandaemonium Miniatures. Hello and welcome.
Hiya. All right.
I'm good. I'm so good. It's so nice to see you in the flesh. I'm so used to just talking to you online. So, thank you everyone for coming along. For those of you who are new, hello. Small Scale Chatter is a awesome, wicked, totally cool podcast and live chat that is 100% sponsored and supported by my patrons. So if you would like to join the adventure, you can join Patreon with the link I've just put in the chat. How exciting. It's patreon.com/geekgirlbookworm. And from as little as £2 a month, you can help support the show. We're working towards our first goal. Our first goal is 50 patrons. And with that money, I can upgrade my Podbean subscription so that I can do more stuff with the audio for the podcast part of it. And it will help when I have to renew my StreamYard subscription as well, which is coming up at some point soon. So yes, come and help us. Yay. With all that done, Paul, would you like to tell us a little bit about Pandaemonium Miniatures? Introduce yourself.
Yep. Hi. So I'm Paul. I'm also Pandaemonium Miniatures. It's just me, and I'm a commission painter. I paint miniatures. I build terrain as well, and I've been doing it for around, I think it's just over 2 years now. I think it was September 2018 that I suddenly said to my partner, you know what, I'm going to try being a commission painter. She's like, all right then. So yeah, and it's sort of just grown from there, really.
Amazing. And you can find Paul Pandaemonium Miniatures on the links that I put in the chat. There's one for Patreon and there is a Ko-fi one as well. So if you want to treat Pandaemonium Miniatures to a coffee, you can hang out over there. And yeah, you can join the Patreon as well. Please do go and have a look at those. Oh, Richard is here. He says that he loves your work. Excellent.
Thank you very much.
He also says that my hair is magical. That is true. It is magic hair. Yay! So let's get down to business then. Let the interview commence. Okay, so a lot of these questions are going to be about your painting, your work, your style, things that you're working on and things like that. And we have some cool pictures to show as well. And then later on, we're also going to talk about Monster of the Week, which is an RPG that you're playing. It's an RPG that I adore. And we're going to talk about that in length. I've had a little taster of who your character is, and I want to know more. So that will come up later. Questions in the chat are always welcome. So if we're talking about something and it sparks a question, just block it in the chat and I will grab hold of it. And then there is a section at the end for questions that maybe didn't turn up sort of organically within the chat. So keep those ones to one side as well. Hello, Ben. Hello.
Hey, Ben.
And Annie says she's buying you a coffee right now.
Thank you.
Yay. This is what we want. Okay, so have you always wanted to be an artist, or did you have other aspirations growing up?
It made me chuckle, this question. Well, I have. That's the thing. When I was at school, it was something I always wanted to do. And I suppose, like a lot of people, you had all the nagging voices of doubt telling you that it's never going to go anywhere. You don't want to pursue that. But I was quite stubborn about it. And I went as far as doing art foundation, and I was going to go and do an art degree. But then I took a year off to work and get funding together, during which time I didn't paint at all. I had been doing a lot of canvas oil painting, and I really didn't do much. So I had a little word to myself, and I said, well, if I can't motivate myself to do it, off my own bat, I think I'll struggle for a three-year course. And I went down a different route, which was weird in a way, because I don't know if you ever did them, but I did one of those psychometric evaluation tests when I was at college.
Yes.
Where you do, you have all the oblique questioning, and you have to do lots of weird dots and squiggles all over the page. And then somehow from this, they extrapolate what kind of person you are and what kind of career is going to suit you. So at the time I was doing A-level art, and I was like, yeah, this is me. This is what I'm doing. Spending my entire life in the art room painting weird paintings and being stared at strangely. And the result of it was, it said, yeah, creative, yeah. You probably suit something like social work. And I thought, what? And I just dismissed it out of hand. But then as it then transpired, I did end up doing a lot of social work related work. So, I've done care work. I've been a youth worker for quite a while. I was a hostel worker with young homeless people. I've worked in education. So I've been an LSA and more recently a teacher. So it's been a long and convoluted route to get back to, oh yeah, I did want to be an artist, and I'm doing it now. It's quite cool.
It's funny because I'm sort of almost the same. Like at school, like art was just the thing I loved, and I'd paint all the time. I even had my own key to the art rooms that my teacher gave me, so that when he could go home, I could just unlock the door and stay as long as I wanted to.
Brilliant.
And then I went to college and got really just disheartened with everything, and then ended up in a casino, like working at a casino. And the test that I took told me I was going to be a civil engineer. I was like, all right, cool. Like, what's that?
Yeah.
But I obviously didn't do that at all. But I've come back to art through miniatures as well. It's nice, good.
Yeah, and I still draw and I paint and things like that from time to time, and it's all just a big continuum, really, isn't it? I think creativity, and if I'm not doing that, then I'll pick up my guitar and do something with that, So it's
because Annie did send in a message to me that said, "Do you do any 2D painting, like on canvas or things like that?"
I have done. I haven't painted for a while. What I was doing for a good long while was I was attending a life drawing class at one of the local cafes, and that was sort of one of my outlets for drawing. That otherwise I might not do it so regularly, but that was really good.
That sounds good. So what is sort of your favorite type of model to paint? So for those of you that are coming in, like there's so many different types of models that you can pick up and paint, really like tiny intricate things, or very large scale models, busts and things like that. What is your favorite thing to pick up and paint for yourself?
I've got quite a few different categories of favorite. I think I really do like the sort of the bigger monsters, and I had such fun painting the Kraken that I bought from Fenris Games the other week. That was really good fun, because I'd had my eye on it for a long time, and it's like, where I've just sort of built myself up to like, I've got to get that, I'm gonna love painting that, and it was really good fun. And similarly, I quite liked the bile worm I got from him as well, which my girlfriend thinks is quite sweet and wants to adopt. Actually, it's quite funny. So that is now the worm that erupts from the ground in my games of Frostgrave. So
Excellent. So you mentioned Frostgrave. So is that the only miniatures based game that you play, or do you play other ones as well?
I play a few. So I've not really had much of a chance to actually play Pirates of the Dread Sea yet, because once I'd got everything together, lockdown happened, and it was just. But in theory, I've got enough miniatures and stuff that I can do a game and teach someone else to play it too, because I've got enough for a couple of different crews. So at some point that's going to happen. I also like Gaslands, which is really good fun. So actually it's quite nice because the group that I play Frostgrave with, a lot of them into Gaslands as well. So that's been a way in. And just bought the rule book and a set of figures for Stargrave as well, because Nick at North Star did one of his Nick starters. So my local store, Bristol Independent Gaming, we approached them and said, "Oh, could you get in on the Nick starter, and we'll buy it through you." So it was a nice way to support them as well.
Yeah. Oh, very nice. So you make scenery as well as like painting miniatures, don't you?
Yeah.
So is that for like wargaming and things, or
yeah? So most of my own stuff I've done for Frostgrave. So it's been kind of quite snowy, gothic ruin type buildings. Partially scratch built those are, but then also I've used the frames from the Pegasus Hobbies Gothic kits, which are brilliant. They're so versatile. So I've sort of used those as the basis, and then I scratch built foundations and steps and things like that. Made them all snowy. I also made a scratch built inn for that as well, because the idea is you've probably seen, but like in the backstory, you've got all of these kind of boom towns that have sprung up around the outskirts of Felstad before, while it was still frozen over, and now that it's accessible again, it's kind of they're like the base from which the adventure parties sort of get into the city. So I thought it would be quite cool to actually represent that on the table. So the inn's part of that, and I'd quite like to build some sort of palisade wall to go around it, as though it's trying to keep everything that's in the city out of the town.
I'm so envious of like scenery, terrain building and things. It's something that I just can't do. I can make like a little base and I can do little things like that, but anything bigger than that, and it's like, I don't know how to do it.
But I thought you did didn't you make that really intricate inn? Was it? I can't remember what it was called, with the portal in the middle.
Oh no, my brother made that for me.
Oh right, no, I thought you'd made that. Okay.
Yeah, no, my brother took it on as I was going to do it, and then my brother saw that I wanted it, so he spent like 6 months building this amazing inn for me as my Christmas present a few years ago. Yeah, he's very good at that type of thing. Like, he can take an idea and then build it. I can have the idea, but then when I put it in front of me, it's smushed and a bit wonky. But he's very good at building.
Yeah.
It was
But no, I enjoyed making the inn. I ended up doing like a big expanded thread on Twitter with a whole kind of step-by-step on that. So that was good fun. And then I ended up making a kind of a larger coaching inn for Dead Earth games, so that Rich can take that on shows when we can do shows again. And when he's doing his demo games, it's sort of going to be a centerpiece for that. Yeah. So that'll be cool.
Ooh, excellent. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about your like painting style. Where do you draw like your inspiration from? I'm going to show a couple of pictures of like stuff, so in case people haven't seen your work before, and these, which are just gorgeous.
Those are the Bad Squiddo dwarves from the Kickstarter. About, I think it must be over a year ago now. and it took me a little while to actually get around to painting them, but really enjoyed these. What I wanted to do with these ones was not for them to be in a uniform, but for them to definitely have some kind of unity in the color scheme. So I just picked red and green as a common color. And then because you've got the torches and the lanterns and the wizard staff, I really wanted to make the most of those and get a bit of a OSL effect going on there as well. So yeah, pleased with those.
Yeah, they look amazing.
And they're going to be a Frostgrave warband.
Yay.
And this one is he's a seasoned veteran is what the model's called, and he's 40 mil scale, and he's for the game Conquest: The Last Argument of Kings by Parabellum, which has been out. I think it's been out for about a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had my eye on them, not really for the game itself initially, because I play a dungeon crawl game called Darklight Memento Mori, and all of the miniatures for that are this scale. So I thought, well, that's spot on, because then I've got extra things that I can expand, because you can turn it into an RPG. There's rules in the rule book to make it a proper RPG. Thanks, Sophia. That's sweet. And so I thought, well, even if I don't get into Conquest itself, then I've got a few miniatures that I can use as extra characters for Darklight.
There's a lot of love for that one going on in the chat.
Yeah, I really like that one. And this is a household knight for the same game. This was actually a free figure that was on the cover of Miniature War Games magazine. And it was the October issue, I think. So it was a back issue that I picked up just to get the knight. And that was really fun to paint.
I love the metalwork in there. It's really subtle, beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been using the Vallejo metal color range lately. I just find it goes on so smoothly, and it takes washes quite nicely if you want to shade it down a bit as well. So that's had I don't think it was even particularly complicated what I did. It was literally applied the metal, it's steel, through my airbrush, and then gave it a Null Oil and blue mix wash, and then highlighted it with a bit of mithril silver. I don't think it was anything more than that really, but it's come out nicely.
So I'm gonna Null Oil and a little bit of blue wash. That sounds good. I would make a note for myself.
Yeah, it was the gloss version of Null Oil as well. So that I think other people have found this, that if you use the gloss washes on their own, it's a little bit weird. It's almost like you've gloss varnished it. Whereas if you cut it with a matte wash as well, it seems to
that's interesting.
Tame it a little bit.
It's good to know. And then we have these ones, which are lovely. I love the colours. I love the patterns. Oh, they're so cool.
Cheers. Yeah, no, these are part of a commission army for a guy called Sonny, who actually works for Mantic. So he's not too far away from you. And I did him 30 Harlequin troopers, just the infantry in the first instance, and then I did him some vehicles and characters. So this was the second wave of the commission, and because I knew they were coming up, I ordered a stencil from Fallout Hobbies in America to do the diamond pattern. Because whereas I could have free-handed the diamonds, I also value my own sanity. So, so that turned what would have probably been, I don't know, 8 to 10 hours work into about an hour.
Nice. That is, I'm always up for a cheat like that. Oh. Yeah, I don't use stencils enough. I don't think I need to invest in some and get practicing with them, because I do try and freehand it, and then afterwards I'm like, why did I do that? One, it took ages.
Yeah, I mean, it can be quite hit and miss, I think, and those ones particularly work quite well because they're self-adhesive and they're made of vinyl, so you can use them multiple times without them tearing.
Yeah.
I've had less success where I've tried to make templates myself and then the paint ends up bleeding. Cheating! He's cheating! He's a fraud! It's pragmatism, Annie.
So from all those pictures, I can see that you've got like a wide range of like sort of skills and color schemes and things. Is there like a certain theme that you often find yourself going back to, sort of inspiration you're drawn from?
Yeah, I do seem to. There's certain combinations I really do quite like. So I really like using kind of teal and red together. So that Thousand Suns blue kind of turquoise with a bold red. That seems to work really nicely. And I've got quite into doing these kind of Martian cracked earth bases as well. But I hadn't really realised it was my thing until my friend saw that that's become a bit of a signature there, hasn't it? Yeah, I suppose it has really.
Yeah, I like the cracked earth bases as well. Oh,
Yeah.
very nice.
Because that's what I've done for my Ghosts of Gaia. So I'm putting together. In fact, I've just got a few more, which are from Bad Squiddo, and they're going to be my Stargrave warband. So they've all, and I got a Mars cloth mat as well to play across. So nail stencils, yeah, I've heard those are quite good.
I've used like nail transfers. You have to cut them very, very close to the stencil, like the actual transfer, and you wet it, and then you can just press it onto the model and then pull it away. And then if you just put like a bit of, when you're spraying it with varnish, it sort of soaks itself into the paint.
That's right. Do they work a bit like do they work a little bit like the Letraset letters and things like that, or is it something else?
They work a little bit like decals and things for yeah, but they normally they have like really beautiful like flowers and things, so you can cut them up and put like flowers on capes and things like that, and you don't have to paint them. And I like that very much.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have a look at.
And they're really cheap, like as well. It's like gold ones that I put on as like tattoos for someone with gold tattoos. Yeah.
Nice.
Do you remember your first commission that you ever did?
Yes, I do. So my friend Saul, who I mentioned earlier, and I'll mention him again because he's my GM for Monster of the Week as well. But he gave me my very first commission to get the ball rolling, and it was a two-part thing, and it was the treasure tokens from Forbidden Island, the board game. So I think it is Forbidden Island, not Forbidden Desert. It's the lion and the crystal and the goblet and something else. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I was like a globe. Yeah. So I painted those up for him. And also he had the 4 gladiators from the core game of Spartacus Blood and Sand. And they were fiddly, I seem to remember, because I think they were about 25mm scale. They seemed smaller than I was used to anyway. But that was good. So that really got things cracking. And then I had another couple of commissions again from friends, and then that helped me just get a few pictures up, and then it all sort of kicked off really quicker than I was expecting. So yeah.
Very good. Well, I mean, you're incredibly talented. So it doesn't surprise me at all.
Thank you.
Do you have a favorite material or tool that you use for your painting and your scenery building and things? Is there something that you always go back to?
Yeah, definitely. So, well, for painting, I really swear by Rosemary and Co brushes now. They've been my mainstay for at least the last year, because they last really well. I always use brush soap anyway, but I can usually get about 4 to 6 months life out of a brush, and they just give me a really consistent sense of control, which is really good. And I found lately in particular that I get on better the bigger brushes I'm using. So even for relatively fine detail and freehand, a size 2 brush seems to be far more suitable than a smaller one might have been maybe a few years ago when I wasn't quite so confident about it.
Got really long bristles as well, haven't they? They're quite long.
Yeah, they've got that really nice sort of long guide hair, which I know some people find that irritating, and I know some people even trim it off, and I'm like, what are you doing? but yeah, I find that really helpful because you've got the body of the brush, so you've got sort of a guaranteed amount of paint flow, and you've got this really fine point that you can jam into all of the details, and you can be confident that the paint's just going to go where you want it to go and nowhere else. So yeah.
I just got my first ones after everyone told me on Twitter I should get them.
Oh yeah, no.
The ones with like a really long handle.
Right, yeah.
Like long. Like, I can sit well away from my model and paint it.
Yes. Yeah, you can opt for the shorter handles though. But I think I haven't used Winsor and Newton, but I seem to understand that their handles tend to veer towards being a bit longer than a normal miniature painting brush. But no, these are really good. And then in terms of terrain building, I couldn't do without foam board. That's just like the main raw material I use. So I know a lot of people will use they'll use foam, and they'll make foam bricks and things like that. I haven't really got access to that, so I use foam board because I can get that from my art shop. Oh, your lights went.
Yes, they did. They did the same thing last week, and I was definitely going to make sure that I kept my that off, but I forgot again. Stupid thing. Oh no, where's my smart remote? Smart life, there we go. That's gonna do it. Keep talking.
Yeah, where was I? Oh yeah, so foam board, and also I sort of almost ritualistically, whenever I'm starting a new project, I'll put a new scalpel blade on my scalpel, regardless of how long it's actually been on there. It's like, oh, new project. So buy them in boxes of 100.
Where do you get like your foam stuff from? Because I always buy the wrong stuff. Like,
local art shop. In fact, during lockdown, it was Bristol Fine Art, and he was doing home deliveries, orders £25 or over. He'd just come to your door. Oh, nice. So I just bought a load, and I've still got tons of it. So it's really good.
Okay, how do you cope with sort of artist's block, painter's block? Or have you been lucky and just not had it?
I think I've been lucky, but I think that's partly because I'm if I'm not painting for myself, I'm painting for somebody else. So it's like, the only times where it's sometimes a little daunting is where somebody's nice enough to give me complete creative free reign on a project, and that's a lovely thing to have. But at the same time, it's also, I I could go absolutely mad with this, but I don't know if you'd like it. So that's where, okay, you've given me free rein, but I am going to do a test model, so you can approve it, and then we'll go from there. You know. But yeah, I mean, in terms of my own stuff, it tends to be sort of displacement. So if I don't feel like painting a miniature, I might build something, or I might or do some, you know, I do something else creative, like pick up my guitar and play a bit or whatever. So yeah, I think it's more of a creative displacement and that kind of butterfly mind sort of thing, more so than an actual block.
Yeah. Is there a technique that you'd still like to learn, that maybe you haven't had a go with, or something that you are sort of trying to improve on at the moment?
I'm quite keen on. I've been looking and seeing how people have been getting on with oils on miniatures, and having done oil painting, I know how messy it is, for one thing, so I'm not sure how practical it is for me, because I literally work on my dining room table. I haven't got a studio really. But I'm quite keen to try that out, and I've also seen where people have been using Liquitex inks, and they look, you know, the results from those look incredible. So
yeah, I've got some of
I
those.
think that's one of the only things though, is because I'm painting almost every day, and usually it's commission based stuff. So, you know, I'll want to do a certain amount in a week. It doesn't often leave a lot of room for playing and experimenting. So where I gradually improve on techniques, it is quite incremental. I won't have necessarily given myself I don't know, X number of hours to paint the leg of a Primaris Marine.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfectly, you know. But maybe, you know, something having the time to do that would be quite a valuable thing, I think.
Yeah.
Because I mean, things like non-metallic metal, it's not something I've ever tried. So that might be an interesting one to try out. But one of my favorite techniques is OSL. Really do enjoy getting that lighting effect, and it's fun to do it on figures. And I've also had quite good fun adding torches to buildings and getting the glow effect on the walls of the buildings. So yeah, and it's just lovely. There's a particular point where you hit the right amount of light, and you think, okay, I've got to leave it now. I don't want to do anything else to it. That's great, you know. Because I think the first time I tried it was on a Dark Light Momentum Morai figure, and for first ever time, and it ended up looking very bleached out because I just didn't understand the light values and how to emphasize absolutely emphasize the focal point with white, but don't use white on anything else really. So I quite enjoy doing it gradually as a build up by hand using glazes. But I also equally quite enjoy doing it with oh, that's right, yeah, I did the set of lanterns for Annie. That was last year, wasn't it? Yeah. Those are good fun. So yeah, but I quite like using the airbrush to get the effect as well. And that tends to be a 3-4 stage process. So I usually start with like an ink or a glaze paint, and I'll spray that over the wide area, and it'll usually, if it's a blue light, it'll be a fairly deep blue. If it's more like fire, it'll be an orange. And then I'll move on to yellow paint, and apply that to a smaller area, and then keep going into incrementally smaller areas until you hit pure white. And then usually I'll then work into it a little bit by hand to add a few edges here and there. But yeah, that's a really fun thing to do.
Yeah, I think sometimes, like, because I only do it by hand, I don't have an airbrush, so sometimes like you can get it really nice and it just the colour just disperses. And then sometimes you look at it, you're like, okay, that just looks like I blobbed it on. Imagine with the airbrush, it sort of gives it a much sort of more natural sort of disbursement on the Mini.
It does seem it sometimes. I mean, when the airbrush behaves itself, it's an absolute blessing. Yeah, but sometimes you just end up with it going and just spitting all over your figure, and it looks awful. Because that's the only problem with OSL. It's a real leap of faith sometimes, because you're doing it on what is a finished figure.
Yeah.
And you're over painting all of the highlights and everything that you've added to add another effect on top. And if it goes wrong, well, you know, that's it.
Many tears.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you got any words of wisdom for any of our miniature painters listening and watching, who maybe are trying to, maybe haven't started yet, or just very beginners, amateur painting?
I don't know. I mean, when I was starting out, I mean, I started painting when I was about 13 or 14, but then I've had lots of gaps in between. And my first painting was awful, but I loved it. You know, it didn't really matter because I was just doing it for myself. I think nowadays, because so many things are on social media, it's become too easy to compare yourself to other painters, and it's a trap. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is just look at what you're doing, enjoy what you're doing, you know, focus on the basics. So, you know, the classic Duncan Rhodes 2 thin coats, getting nice solid base coats down, nice and neat, everything within the zones it should be in, adding shading, adding highlights, and compare your progress to your previous miniature. You know, what are you building on? What personally do you want to get out of it? Because some people, you know, really just want to paint to get purely to get an army that looks good on the battlefield, and that's absolutely fine. Other people paint completely meticulously, and they're like gods on earth to display level, and you know, that's something else. And I seem to remember it may even have been Darren Latham who'd said that you know, you're either going to be a very good army painter or a very good display painter, and it was almost like there was a dichotomy there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't pitch myself as a display painter particularly. Most of what I do is for gaming, but I will sort of try and push a few things, you know, to make some models stand out, you know.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Like, it is really difficult to like not compare yourself. Like sometimes, like, you know, I'll look at someone and be like, oh, I'm so inspired by that. That's so amazing. And then look at my thing and I'll be like, oh, I'm so terrible. Why am I even trying? But
then that's the thing. But then what you're not seeing is the hours and hours and years and years that person has put into it. So, you know, somebody like Richard Gray, there's no point in me comparing myself to him, because I know, you know, the level he was at when I was, he's at roughly my age, I think. So the level that he was at when we were both 18 was already way above what I was doing then. So
yeah.
he's just gone off and he's developed, you know, but he's very conscious of technique. He's very conscious of, this is what I want to achieve, and I know exactly how to achieve it. And also, he takes his time. You know, you know, something like if he was doing a bad under despoiler and he's still working on it, I believe that's been a months long project on a single miniature. Whereas, you know, I painted a Baden in 3 days, and of course it's never going to be that standard. And you know, but then equally, Richard has said, you know, he's not a commission painter, and no, let's face it, nobody could afford him, could they? You know, but to justify the hours of work he puts into a figure, you know, that's the thing.
Right, we have a few questions come through from the chat, so I'm going to bring them up now before I lose them in the deluge of other things coming on. So Teresa has asked, do you recommend painting with confidence, or is there a different approach?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, confidence certainly helps, and I think that's what I was sort of alluding to with the brushes I use. I think if you're confident that the tools that you're using are going to not do the dirty on you, and you're going to you know, be able to achieve what you set out to do, that's definitely half the battle. And yeah, a sense of confidence. I mean, having a general idea of what you want the end result to be, and also not being disheartened by that middle slightly ugly stage that a model goes through, because like you particularly, I think at the base coat stage, which can be quite a tedious part of the miniature process, because you're laying down all the groundwork for the interesting stuff. So it's quite hard to see at that point what it's going to turn out like. So to have that in your mind's eye is quite a useful thing to have. So yeah, a sense of confidence. But also, I think knowing that if it does go wrong, it doesn't actually matter in the grand scheme of things. I mean, I fouled up a whole squad of Marines a few weeks ago, and for me, I felt like I had a lot riding on it. It was a commission, but it was also for a very good friend of mine, and so I almost put more pressure on myself to get it right than I would do normally, and it all went a bit pear-shaped. So I slathered them in biostrip and started again, and they turned out really well in the end. But that's the thing. It's like there's always a way out. You know, if it does go awfully wrong, you can strip the paint and start again, or you know, if you've painted thinly enough, you can overpaint what you've done, you know, and change the scheme midway. So it's always, you know, everything's salvageable. I mean, it's a little bit like, I mean, I'm next to my chest of drawers, so I made this because I'm a cabinet maker as well, and when I was a student, you know, my teachers were often, you know, they were like, do everything by hand if you can, rather than by machine, because then it can only go wrong slowly.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a really good way of thinking about it. It's like, yeah, because it's like, if you can feel it going wrong, stop, take a break. You know, don't try and plow through, and you know, because you'll end up making it even worse. And yeah, that sort of approach I think is quite healthy. Just, you know, being prepared to just take a little bit of defeat shows that victory is possible. Absolutely, yeah.
Right, and one from Annie, that's good again, says, how do you price your commissions? Is this an ongoing process for you for getting it right, or how do you balance?
Yeah, it's a constant debate, and actually, because the tax year is just rolled over again, it's something I'm going to be reviewing again. I think I've just about got it balanced. What I do is I price things per miniature, and I tend to try and project that into some kind of hourly rate. So if I think a squad will take me, you know, 3 days, you know, and that'll be, I don't know, 15 hours, I guess, in terms of real painting time. Then I charge accordingly. So some projects will take longer than others. I mean, I think the longest miniature project was a Chaos Night. So they're massive things.
Yeah.
And with the building and the painting together, it was, you know, it clocked up to about 20 hours. So, you know, what was that, about 200 quid or something like that. So, and I do have a lot of people telling me I should charge more, but I think it's a balance, isn't it? Because you want to be charging a rate that is fair, you know, for your time and your skill and all the rest of it, and is reflective of that. But equally, you also don't want to price yourself out of the market as well. So it's quite a balance, and I don't think there's no real easy way in, because there's no, you know, like there's no union of miniature painters. You know, like if you were a music teacher or a musician, there's rates, there's guidelines, you know, and you know,
have X amount of experience, therefore
that's exactly it. Whereas, you know, how do you grade what is good remuneration for an artistic skill? It's very difficult. So yeah, it's something I constantly review, but I can definitely say I was charging far too little when I first started, and if I hadn't have kept that in check as quickly as I had, I probably would have burnt out, because I was just charging a really silly small amount per figure, and it was like, this is not working out. but now I think I've got the balance about right.
So Richard's asked, what inspires the colour mixes you choose? And afterwards he puts, still thinking of that dark blue and bright pink combination.
Oh right, yeah. Well, that one in particular was really due to the winter setting. So, and also I'd done a Harlequin's Army before, which was very autumnal. So, and I've just been recently adding a few more units to that one, actually. So, and that was kind of bone black, red and green, with autumn basing. So it struck me that if it was going to be a winter themed scheme, then cold colors should be the main thing. So that's why I've got that kind of teal blue. But then the pink came about just through a discussion with the client, because when I did the test model, when I first started that army, it was very much, it was the blue, and then it had the purple for the sashes as the spot color. And he just asked, oh, can I add another color in to make them a bit more eye-catching? And I just suggested pink, and we went with that, and that just seemed to really work. I mean, it's a color theory thing, really. I mean, if you go to the color wheel, you can see at a glance what will work together just by what opposes each other. And that's just a nice quick easy way in. So that's why I end up sort of defaulting to things like greens and reds, or teal and red, you know, because they've got that, they're automatically going to vibe off each other because they're opposites.
Complementaries. Yes. Yeah, that's always my tip for new painters. It's like, get yourself a color wheel, have it on your phone or print one out, have one, because it's just the easiest thing to help you choose nice color schemes. Because I'm a big fan of really bright, obnoxious colors, it's like just gonna make sure that they match and doesn't look like something rainbow vomited on them.
Yeah, I mean, a good way in, and it's something I need to digest a little bit more, because InStar Paints have been publishing free PDF guides on color theory and mixing colors, and they're just incredibly useful, really useful.
Yeah, I'm
I
going to
mean,
have it for Star on here at some point.
yeah. Oh, brilliant.
Yeah,
because I mean, I suppose it's almost something I take for granted just because I did, our A level up to foundation, and color theory was something, we had to paint our own color wheels by mixing our own colors to match it all, but guides like that, and the fact that he's published it and it's available for free as well, which is, it's an incredible resource, I think.
Yeah, they're good peoples.
Mm.
Right, we're running out of time. We haven't even talked about Monster of the Week yet.
Oh wow. Oh, we better talk about that then.
Yeah, okay. There's a couple of questions that have popped up in chat. Keep them coming through, everyone. We're going to talk a little bit about Monsters of the Week, and then we'll come back to questions. For anyone who doesn't know, Monster of the Week is a RPG by Evil Hat Productions. It's a action horror RPG that takes from the sort of best awesome TV shows of the 90s, that while they had an overarching story, there was always like a monster that week that Buffy had to fight. And that's sort of the theme for this RPG. And you have played it, so tell us about your home game, because I love this RPG. I think it's wonderful. I think the mechanics are amazing for it. So
oh yeah, well, we've been having loads of fun with it, and this campaign's been going for almost, it might even be a year now actually, because we started it when lockdown started, and we've been playing via Zoom, and it's a group of friends that I would ordinarily go up to Manchester to play board games and stuff with. So and it's great fun. So we are a group of monster hunters, and we are based in this little town called Milforth, which is a little bit like Bakewell, or one of these Pennine sort of towns. So it's reasonably quiet, except that it seems to be the haven for a lot of monster activity. So we started out, and my first character was an assassin called Nicodemus, who had previously been the gun for hire for a Manchester crime lord. Now he's had to lay low, so he's currently in Bruges. So my other character is taken over. So Diana is very much in the Buffy mold. She's a chosen one, and it's her destiny to slay all evil. And she's had dreams since she was very young, and it guided her to this magical blade made of obsidian. And she's absolutely, full of zeal and vim, except that because of my dice rolls, she's actually not very good. So she's got special moves, like she can hold court, and she can make a massive entrance and make a speech, and everybody will turn around and go, "Oh, who's that?" and be distracted while everybody else can beat them up. But she in reality, she gets up to make these speeches, and then I roll a 2, and everybody completely ignores me, and I just sit down embarrassed with a big red face. Or I've got this magical weapon which I can channel the immense power through for this big seismic attack, and then I'll roll a 3 and it'll just fizzle and nothing will happen. It's just pure comedy. Because she should be absolutely kick-ass, and she's like budget Buffy.
But the mechanics for this game sort of reward you for these failures, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So every time you make a mess up of a dice roll, you gain an experience point. So I've managed to level up a couple of times very quickly as a result. But also you gain experience at the end of each session. You get questions. So have you learned anything new, exciting about the world? Have you learned anything new about monsters? Have you learned something new about one of the hunters? And you gain some experience at the end as well. So it's a great system because I mean I haven't had to look at any rules. We've been able to download the play sheets for free online, and it's very accessible. You only need you only need 2d6 and your character sheet, and everything is explained on the sheet. So it's it's very easy.
I really love RPGs that just are like a couple of dice, and like just one person needs the book. Like the book itself is only this little tiny sort of thin thing as well. It's not like a massive rule book where you're like running through, oh, what do I do here? What do I do here? More RPGs.
And Saul, who's been running it, has been brilliant. He's because he's been able. It's given him the latitude as well to, create. So we've got custom as well as the set moves that you've got for return or for your character class. We've got custom ones so we can investigate facilities. So at the moment we've ascertained that all of these monsters are basically being created by this nefarious company who we've infiltrated a couple of times. So we can investigate a facility. So it's an extra move that we've made up for that scenario. Yeah, so it's really good fun.
Very cool, very cool. So I want to play Monster of the Week now. I'm going to have to put a little game together. Yeah, I mean, I came back because the McElroy brothers from Adventure Time did a series with it, and it was just really delightful, and that's why I bought it. But yeah, I want to definitely play some of this as well. Right, okay, so I'm going to put out one more question from the chat, and then we'll do a quick where people can find you, what's going on, and then it will be the end of the show. Cool. So
that's come around very quick. Yeah.
Yeah. What is your holy grail retro miniature? The rare one that you really, really want for yourself?
Oh wow. I think it's probably one from that 54mm Inquisitor range, and Eisenhorn, Inquisitor Eisenhorn, and that's because I've got the miniature, but I did a really quite a crude conversion job when I was about 16, and I kind of want a new one, so I don't have to look at that one again. But yeah, I mean those. I think you can occasionally pick up a bargain with those, but they're not very easy to come by now. It wasn't even a game I ever played. I just loved the massive figures, great big unwieldy lumps of metal that they were. Yeah.
So the last thing I want to show off to everyone is a miniature that you have been painting. You've painted for Bad Squiddo for their Kickstarter, which is live right now. It's World War II Soviets. She is really, really cool. I like her a lot. I like that you've made green not boring. War colours.
It's tricky, isn't it? I mean, also I've got no experience of painting military, like real life military figures, so I kind of had to wing it and do wing it as a pilot. I had to do like almost it's a generic olive drab, I suppose, but luckily GW Castellan Green is quite a good stand-in for that. So yeah.
Yeah, I love war colours. When I've had to paint some up, it's like, what colour do I paint it? Green, Angela, it's green. Everything is green. It's all green. It's like, oh, okay. It's green. Oh, look, there's a bit of brown.
It's the bags and straps. And I think that's just the nature of it, isn't it? But I know it does a lot of people's head in painting squads and squads with loads and loads of bags and straps.
Yeah. But yeah, so that Kickstarter is live. The link is in the chat. It funded in 12 minutes. So yeah, run over there.
Congratulations. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So people can find you online via your Patreon, which I have put a little link up here. So if you enjoyed this talk, Paul, you want to find out more about his miniature process and things like that, pop over to his Patreon. You can also connect with him on his Facebook page, and that's sort of your main page, isn't it, for talking about?
Yeah, that's the main port of call, really. It seems to be where most people will contact me. The other one is my Etsy shop, although I'm debating with myself whether to close it down just because of Etsy's current practices. Say no more. But plus I'm not really using it as a shop per se. It's more just a platform to say, this is what I do, contact me.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm cheating it a little bit. But yeah, Facebook definitely. I'm also on Twitter, and I've got an Instagram. And I'm on the new minis with 3 N's.
And there is a link for all of those in the YouTube and the Facebook thing as well, so you can go and find all them cool, exciting places. So it just says me to say thank you, first of all, to my patrons, with whom this would not be possible. So I'm going to call out their names because they're amazing. We've got Themo, Tim, Brandon, Charlotte, Chris, Fenris Games, Cerberus Studios, they're a new one, yay. Ben, David, Frankie, Gab, Hanno, Louis, Bob, you, Paul, Richard, Silverglass, One Sick Bunny, Anton, and Liam. Amazing people who help out from as little as like £2 a month. They help me every month to be reaching that goal, and it's awesome, and it makes me be creative and wonderful, and I appreciate them all so very much for their support and their patience, especially in the last year when there was lockdown and it was terrible. I mean, it was still in lockdown, but it was more terrible than I'm used to it now. But yes, thank you to all of those people. You can join Patreon, patreon.com/geekgirlbookworm, and you can find me everywhere else online with linktree/geekgirlbw, which is also in the chat as well. So you'll find me on all the Facebooks and everything there. And final thanks is to you, Paul. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's been absolutely lovely.
Yay.
Really enjoyed it.
And we didn't get through all the questions, but I got through the main important ones. Thank you everyone for coming along and talking in chat, asking questions, and yeah, thank you again, Paul, for coming along. It's been really nice to talk to you. Finally, in person, yay! And yeah, in our next episode in 2 weeks, we will be talking to Descent Games, a female-led new game, not group, but like studio. They got Kickstarter coming up, strong feminist vibes. Come along and chat with me and Jess in episode 4 in 2 weeks' time. The podcast for this will be up on Podbean and Apple and Google and all of those places on Monday. Wonderful. Right. Thank you, everyone, and good night.
Thank you. Bye.